Guys, I think we need to duct tape Rob Pelinka's mouth before every single press conference that the Lakers have because, my God, he be saying way too much in these press conferences, and teams got the Lakers in the scope, and there's really not much they can do about it, and I don't know why. Every single time. He always be saying something that makes me just shake my head, but we're going to talk about today here on Lakers Digest. My name is Hunter Pitcoff. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, what are you doing? We cover everything here surrounding your Los Angeles Lakers. I know a lot of you be watching. You're leaving comments, which I always appreciate, and I always try to get back to you guys. But come on, join the family, be a part of this, because today we're going to be breaking down some big stuff here about JJ Redick and Rob Pelinka giving a timeline for what they want to see out of this roster. And guys, this is a very short leash that the Los Angeles Lakers are giving here too. And the biggest takeaway I got from the preseason press conference today that Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick gave, 0 dark 30 games. That is the timeline that Rob Pelinka said he is giving this team until he decides that he wants to make a move. And Dave McMenamin as well, give a pretty nice recap here, saying that Rob Pelinka, when asked about pursuing a trade to turn the team into a contender, he said, quote, "We believe in this group," but added that it will probably take 30 games or so to properly evaluate what the team has this season. So I just don't really understand why Rob Pelinka is even giving a number out there, because he's just going to be even more of a punching bag for Laker fans. If the Lakers start off, I don't know, let's say they start off like 13-17, everyone's going to be looking at Rob Pelinka like, oh, it's 30 games, what are you going to do? And then if the Lakers start off 20-10, and then they trade somebody, now fans are also going to be pissed off. So, for me, I understand if he has that number in his head, that's fine. By 30 games into a season, you have a pretty good idea who the contenders and the pretenders are. There have been times where the Lakers have kind of actually turned their season around after 50 games. So, for me, I'm like, why does he even think of this as a thing? Like, teams at game 30 of a season when it's about December compared to where they are in April, May, and June are two totally different things. So, the fact that this is what Rob Pelinka has in his head, you, of course, always want to evaluate your roster, evaluate your talent, have those milestones throughout the season. But the fact that he actually told us that it's 30 games, he's really kind of setting himself up to be laughed at. And I think for this Lakers team, I don't think that's even enough time to really evaluate what they really even have on this roster. And so that also brings us to our next point, guys, which is running back the 5 as well. And this is something that was actually brought up by JJ Redick, but this was also brought up yet again. So let me say this. This was brought up by JJ Redick in a Zach Lowe podcast from ESPN, but then was also brought up again by a reporter asking him during this press conference earlier today. And, let's go to that point first. I always screw up the graphic, guys. But Rob Pelinka also saying here, too, that he's willing to trade the 2 first-round picks if it helps, quote, sustain Lakers' excellence. But, of course, Rob Pelinka then talks about how, it's so hard to make trades now because of all the trade, all the new CBA agreements and the different thresholds that the Lakers are in and stuff like that, and different tax brackets. So I understand that may or may not be true. But, again, Rob, you're going to need some of this before your press conference. Just keep the mouth shut so no one can understand what you're saying, because you typically say something kind of stupid. But talking about JJ Redick, something I do really appreciate about him is he's a pretty open, transparent coach. And while that's not necessarily, great per se, some coaches like a Greg Popovich, they'll go out and be like, we sucked, this is why, or we were great, this is why. But JJ Redick definitely coming in hot during some of these press conferences, which doesn't really shock me either, because JJ Redick, as he even admitted himself, is a bit of a hothead, like he was talking about in that press conference. But when JJ Redick was asked about the starting lineup on Zach Lowe's podcast, he said, quote, "Yeah, it will be the starting 5 that went 23-10 last year." And, of course, he's referring to the starting 5 that consisted of D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Now, the question is that actually going to stay the starting five all season long? Because something that was a big criticism of mine of Darvin Ham is he could never freaking figure out the starting lineup, and it took him literally the entire season to realize, hey, we're going to roll with those five guys that I just mentioned. Whereas J.J. Redick is coming into this season knowing this is the five that I want to start the season with. So the fact that J.J. already has a clear vision in mind, I think is going to make it that much easier for this team. And it's also going to help guys really kind of align themselves and really help J.J. Redick figure out a more concise rotation, because Darvin Ham was messing with the rotations game by game. I remember under Frank Vogel, I knew exactly what the rotations were going to be. You knew who was coming in, when they were coming in, what lineups worked well with each other. And this was figured out pretty early for the Lakers, and that's why they had great team chemistry and why they won a championship in 2020. Darvin Ham could never figure this out. The rotations were always different. The starting lineups were always different. The Lakers are always toward the top of the league in different starting lineups. And that's also to consider the fact that a lot of the Lakers' top players played in a ton of games last year. LeBron James and Anthony Davis played in over 70 games apiece. Austin Reaves quite literally was the Iron Man of the team and did not miss a game. D'Angelo Russell played in at least 65 games. And then you have Rui Hachimura, who also, I think, played in a career-high games in a regular season. So their starting lineup all played in a bunch of games, and yet they had one of the most they had the most starting lineups, different lineups in the league. And Darvin Ham could never figure that out. So the fact that J.J. Redick is affirming to us that this is the starting lineup, this is what we're rolling with, and we'll have everybody kind of play a certain role on this team, I think is definitely going to be a lot more concise and a much more of a clearer vision that the Lakers had entering a training camp, which is ironic because Darvin Ham had 2 seasons as a head coach of this team, and it seemed like he never could figure that out. So I want to shout out J.J. Redick in that sense, and that's going to bring us to our final point here, guys, which is, should the Lakers have this short of a leash? 30 games for this team, because that's not a lot of games, and we see teams completely transform their rosters from the start of the season to the end. And I know they didn't win a championship last year, but look at the Dallas Mavericks. If they didn't add Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington to their team, I don't think they make the NBA Finals, because those are 2 guys that significantly improved the roster and were willing to fit into what the Mavericks were doing and elevate that team. And so that's really a big question I have for the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Is 30 games not enough? Because remember, free agents that just signed can't be traded until December 15th, which is right about that deadline that Rob Pelinka is talking about. So, yeah, it makes sense. But at the same time, though, you should always be evaluating your team. And I just don't understand, again, why are you saying this out loud? You don't need to say this out loud. This was an unprovoked question. No one asked him, hey, how many games until you make up your mind? He said this impromptu, guys. I just watched the press conference. You can watch it yourself. It's toward about I'd say 3/4 of the way in. It's about a half-hour press conference, but I don't get it. And, you can't take everything away from a preseason press conference. Games are played on the hardwood, not behind the microphones. That's our job. That's what we get paid to do. But Rob Pelinka, to me, I don't know. Every time he has something like this, he just says something stupid. It just makes me just shake my head every single time. But let me know in the comments, too, guys. I've been loving the engagement that we've been having in there. Do you agree with the 30-game timeline that Rob Pelinka has given this current roster to figure it out before he ultimately pulls the trigger and makes a trade? They are willing to trade their 2 first-round picks, which has been pretty well known. And obviously, everyone knows Lakers are going to want to trade those picks. So it's just easy trade bait for all these teams. And the reason why is because Rob Pelinka keeps running his damn mouth and saying these things. So let me know in the comments, guys. Is 30 games too much? Is it a good number? Is it not enough? And also, what other takeaways do you have from that press conference? Because there's a lot of takeaways, and me and Okechi, my other co-hosts, have been talking about here. And we are going to be giving a more personalized videos like this as well, talking about the different takeaways from this press conference, because, again, the training camp for the Lakers and the NBA starts on October 1st, next Tuesday. What? Tuesday. Yeah, I got that right. Next Tuesday, that's when it starts. And then the Lakers' first preseason game is on October 4th. against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, guys, we are going to see actual real-life basketball soon in the NBA. We're going to see all the talk from the offseason. We're going to get proven right or wrong next month, during the preseason, during the start of the regular season. So, definitely subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, guys, to keep up with all of our content here on Lakers Digest. And, again, guys, Rob Pelinka, he's gonna need this next time.